I am Thomas, and today we are in the Princeton Cemetery in Princeton, New Jersey. We'll be heading all the way to the back of the cemetery to tell you the story and to pay respects to Jose and Kitty Menendez. There's the portrait of Kitty, Jose, Eric and Lyle. Eric and Lyle, the two sons of Jose and Kitty. Jose and Kitty were murdered by Lyle and Eric. We're paying respects to Kitty and Jose's graves. The trial was on Court TV, and if you are old enough to remember this, on Court TV, this is a trial that was in the public eye, and it was a lot of people were fascinated. A lot of people had their eyes glued in. It was probably the story, the biggest court case. And then, the O.J. Simpson trial happened, Casey Anthony, so on and so forth. But this was one of the biggest cases which had, which America's eyes were glued to. Just to give you a quick background of the family. After leading the U.S. operations of Hertz, which is a car rental company here, Jose spent, which is the father, he spent the early 80s as the head of RCA Records. And he had a hand in signing bands such as Duran Duran, The Arithmetics, and Menudo. And at this point, as we've skipped to the story, a little fast forward here, Jose has two sons, Lyle and Eric, and he's married to Kitty. And the Menendez family, they decided to move from Princeton, New Jersey, to Los Angeles, which would be just a few years before their untimely death, so that Jose could take a job in the movie business. The house where Jose and Kitty lived in L.A. was located on one of the most exclusive blocks in Beverly Hills. So they were doing, Jose was doing okay for himself and his family. That house at times, at different times, was occupied even by Michael Jackson and Elton John. And I don't think Michael Jackson and Elton John would just settle in and spend some time living in a home that was right? So, they were doing well as far as material-wise. And the Menendez brothers, affluent neighborhood. His parents had some money, and they were able to kind of enjoy a good life. Lyle was a star tennis player, and he actually seemed to be destined, for a career in business, like his father, that he openly worshipped. Eric turned out to be even better at tennis. And that was helped by his father's intervention. His father was really into tennis, really wanted to see his sons do good, and it was almost like an obsession of his as well. So their father was, involved, and it helped Eric to be a nationally ranked player in his age bracket. Imagine that. In a sense, they had no choice but to be successful. That's what their father expected of them, nothing less. Listen, from where he came from to this country, hard driving father who would work his children to the bone in athletics and everything else that he did. So that was Jose's mentality. it seemed like, Jose was so competitive. He was doing everything he could to try to make Eric better. But it to many people it seemed completely overbearing, and it had the opposite effect on Eric. So, because his father was always constantly pushing him to do better and never really just, he just always wanted to do better, he never thought that what he did was good enough. And after they moved to California, Eric apparently took to teenage rebellion, took part in a string of robberies, 1988, avoided jail time, but attended court ordered therapy. Lyle had enrolled in Princeton University, but was suspended for a year for plagiarism, and then eventually let go from the school. On August 20th of 1989, Jose and Kitty were standing in the den of their Beverly Hills mansion when Lyle and Eric entered the den carrying shotguns. Jose was shot 6 times, including a fatal shot in the back of the head, and Kitty was shot 10 times in total. Before the fatal shot to her cheek, she was on the ground, crawling and moaning. Lyle then ran to his car to reload and then fired the fatal shot to her face. So immediately after the killings, both brothers, they stayed in the house, and they were expecting the police to respond due to the noise of the gunshots. Now, when the police arrived, the brothers told them that the killings had occurred while they were out at a movie theater seeing Batman, and they attended a festival in Santa Monica. The police, they didn't at the time seek any gunshot residue tests from the brothers, which would have indicated whether they had recently discharged a firearm, which they did not do. That's the Menendez brothers with their father Jose. In the months after the killings, the brothers, they began to spend extravagantly on luxury items, business and travel. Lyle, he had bought a restaurant in Princeton, a Rolex watch, and a Porsche. Eric, on the other hand, had hired a full-time tennis coach and competed in a series of tournaments in Israel. The brothers eventually abandoned the mansion, and they chose to live in adjoining condos in Marina del Rey. There is the, as you've seen, the grave of Kitty and Jose. They also dined expensively, went on overseas trips to the Caribbean and London. They had approximately spent $700,000 before their arrests. $700,000. Now, so the crime scene looked so bad, like it was gruesome, that they originally thought that it was like a mob hit. So it was a brutal scene. Now, when the trial happened, which became again like a phenomena on court TV, The brothers stated that they had killed their parents out of fear for their lives after a lifetime of abuse, allegedly, at the hands of their parents, especially sexual abuse at the hands of their father. Now, they described their mother was as enabling, selfish, and mentally unstable, who encouraged her husband's behavior and was also violent towards the brothers. That was the defense's case. Now, the prosecution simply said, now, just to backtrack here, apparently, during this case, that the allegations that were made against the parents, they were supported by two family members during their testimonies. The brother's cousin, and another cousin of the brothers as well. There were photographic evidences, apparently. So that's what the defense went with. And the prosecution went with simply the motive that Lyle and Eric, they wanted their inheritance, and they wanted it now. The trial ended with two deadlocked juries, because the brothers initially were tried separately. At that point, they decided to try them together for the second case, and they were convicted. Convicted of 2 counts of first-degree murder and conspiracy to commit murder. They were sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. As we're looking at the cemetery, and we're literally like in the back of the cemetery here, and like really in the back of the cemetery. Not a big cemetery. You walk in and you second to last aisle. I believe that there was some type of a story here that the brothers insisted that they be buried all the way in the back. Type of almost like a sense of like punishment, or what, it was just a very odd, and I could be getting this story wrong, but it was like a very odd fight that they insisted that be buried back here. Rest in peace to the Menendez family.